Welcome back, everyone, to the Unboxed to Lead podcast. I'm RP Soriano with Dr. Robert Davis, and we are continuing our conversation on what we've learned, or what Dr. Davis has learned, about leadership from climbing 14,000-foot mountains. I want to remind everyone that you can please like, share, and subscribe. Be sure to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. And with that, I'll turn it back over to you, Robert. Why don't you recap the 5 points that we reviewed from our last podcast, and take us into the next 5 things that you've learned from leadership in climbing these mountains.
Sounds awesome. So we learned the last time that we were together. Number 1, don't rush. It is a long journey. The second thing that we learned about leadership is don't linger too long or you'll lose momentum. The third thing that we learned was bring the right supplies. The fourth thing that we learned was take scheduled breaks to regulate yourself. And the fifth thing we learned is it's easier to come down than it is to go up. We're going to cover the other 5 in just a moment as we unbox the power and the potential of your leadership. I'm Dr. Robert Davis, family life educator and leadership coach. This is my co-host, RP Soriano. Soriano attended Johns Hopkins Carey Business School, worked in the financial industry, and was an international consultant before partnering with me to launch Unboxed to Lead. Me? Well, I worked for over 20 years as a senior pastor and a community organizer. Then I retired and started a leaders peer support community called Unboxed to Lead. Soriano and I have been friends since the early 90s, and with our varied experiences and expertise, we help leaders reach the next level in their leadership. So join us for the next few moments as we unbox the power and the potential of your relationships, your leadership, and your life. All right. So glad to have you back. As we said just a moment ago, please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. That's right. Please make sure that you like, subscribe, and share. We want to build this platform and we want to get this word out. All right. So let's go ahead and get started. We talked about the first 5. Let's get started with number 6. Raphael, the 6th thing that I learned about leadership from climbing 14,000-foot mountains. And I love just saying that, 14,000-foot mountains. The thing that I learned, it just sounds like I did something marvelous until the guy who climbed Mount Everest says, hey, Sonny boy, step aside. I climbed a mountain that was 42,000 feet tall. All right. So the 6th thing I learned is the view is beautiful from the top, but it's hard to breathe. The view, we want to reach the top. And by top in this regard, I'm talking about the top of the leadership chain, being the head honcho, being the big man on campus, the top dog, if you will. The challenge with that is when you make it to the top, the pressures that are put on you can be unreal. I remember the first time, coming here to Colorado and then driving up to around 10,000 feet. I'm not even talking about hiking. I'm talking about driving in a car. And I remember getting out of the car and just being like, whew, they don't have oxygen in this state? I mean, do you have to buy oxygen somewhere? They give it to you free everywhere else. just being up at that altitude, I realized how thin the air is, how the oxygen is not as concentrated. And while it is wonderful, it is beautiful, there's a sense of accomplishment. It is difficult to breathe. And so one of the things I thought about as I was climbing the mountain is, while I'm up there, I have to understand and be respectful and appreciative and conscious of the pressures that are placed on individuals during leadership.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, I thought I was waiting for you Finish your thought there. That came to quite a. It's like you ran out of breath.
Now you have to understand, Raphael and I are both natural talkers. So we're trying to be intentional about giving space for the other one to be able to speak. And
Yeah,
so one of the things I said I was going to do was I was going to make salient points and then just stop and let him come in. And he's so used to me talking that
right.
when I stopped, it caught him off
It
guard.
completely caught me off guard. I become a cheerleader and I'm waving the pom poms, and then all of a sudden you throw me the football.
All right, I'm gonna set it back up again. But yeah, so when you reach the top, there's a lot of pressures, and that's why it's so important to understand what it is that you're moving toward, not just where it is that you're moving towards, but what it is, and to really appreciate how that's going to change your life. And I'm just going to give one example. People love to play the lottery, and I was driving down the street. I think the jackpot is something like $800 million right now for Powerball or something like that. It's 800 million. And a lot of times we hear about people who hit these high jackpots, and then a few years later they're in debt. You're like, how do you win, $50 million, and then 3 years later you're in debt? And it's because they knew where they wanted to go, which was to hit the lottery. That's why they played in the first place. But they didn't think about what it meant once they got there. What does it mean? How does that impact your family? Well, a lot of people, man, their families start coming with their hands out. They don't know how to say no. They just think about all the things they want to buy. They don't think about how to set up a trust fund, how to, prepare for their retirement, any of those things. They're just spending like drunken sailors, if you will. And so it's not just enough to say, I want to get there, but also to think about what does it mean? Because while it is beautiful at the top. It is beautiful to be able to guide an organization, to lead, to reach your professional goals. What does that mean for your family? What is that going to mean for your personal health? What is that going to mean for your time? What is that going to mean relative to having to travel? What is that going to mean relative to not being able to speak your mind, because now you're speaking on behalf of an entire organization and perhaps hundreds or thousands of people that organization represents? What does it actually mean when you get to the top? Because again, that pressure that's going to come on you, have you thought through what that's going to look like and how that's going to impact your life?
Yeah, I mean, if you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit about my wife and her situation, because I think that speaks. I think that this speaks right directly to that, and I'll try to be as brief as possible here. So we live in Singapore. My wife was chosen to come and start the Asia division for her company, which is an incredible opportunity, and speaks to just the kind of person that she is, and her leadership and her strength. So I would say that as far as what it means to be on the top of the mountain, she is experiencing that. But it has had an impact. It has had an impact on the view is beautiful. It is hard to breathe. I've watched her experience this. And it's been my job to do whatever I can do to help the breathing be easier. Yeah. We've got 2 kids, and I have to do it's unfair to even say this, because women, and my wife in particular, she just does it all. I mean, she's not the type of person who is going to put off some of her responsibilities. She still does everything with work, and she still does everything that needs to be done as a wife and as a mom. I always say that the difference between how women handle things and the way men handle things. For instance, if I'm pouring water into a glass, once it nears the top, I stop, because I know there's no point in going any further with this. So I know what I can handle. And it's usually the glass is not a big tall glass. It's usually about something like a shot glass. Mm-hmm. But what I've experienced with my wife is she'll just keep pouring and just keep pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring and pouring, even though the water's coming out. But you're right about what the impact is on the family, and what the role that other family members have to take on to try to help that person at the top breathe better, breathe easier. It's a big challenge. It's lonely up there. It's hard to breathe. She's under a ton of pressure, and it becomes my responsibility on how I can help her kind of manage that pressure.
That is so important. One of the things that we do at Unboxed to Lead, especially within our peer support groups, as well as with our one-to-one leadership coaching, is we try to help leaders to really understand and to think through what is it going to mean when you get to that next level. Not just what does it take to get to that next level, but what does it mean once you get there? How is that going to impact your life and those around you? And what are you going to need to do in order to breathe at such a high altitude? Number 7, our 7th one is don't be intimidated by the pace of others. One of the things as I was climbing 14ers that really got me, Raphael, was you're walking up there and then some 70-year-old guy just zooms past you. I mean, you're, God, help me to get one more step. And then the 70-year-old guy, man, he just zooms right. He got on some shorts. He's wearing some rundown Nike shoes, got on the nice boots, and you got the sticks there, everything. He just rolls right by you like, man, how is that guy doing this? And I would be so fixated on how everyone else is moving and how everyone else is passing me that it would become discouraging. When I had to stop by and say, you know what? These people are from Colorado. They do this stuff in their sleep. Climbing a 14er for them is like, me walking to my basement to grab, a load of laundry out the wash machine. This is what they do. I can't base my success on how fast they're going. I have to base my success on the pace that I go at and how and at my level. And this again goes back to this whole thing of being more thoughtful, mindful, and being able to reflect and to focus more on self as we're going through this leadership journey.
Yeah, I agree. I think about where I am in my life and the professional accomplishments that I've had, and I can tell you that you look at these you see these names of 30, the top 30 by 30 or the top 40 by 40, and what people have accomplished. I was pretty much a late bloomer when it came to my professional career, and being in my latter years, I often, I'm not going to be the first person picked in the pickup game of basketball. There are certainly people more accomplished or who have maybe done more, but you can't discount your accomplishments and what you've done and also what you're working with. It's easy. Some people get put on the dream team, man. Some people get, they find themselves on a team with the best players in the league, and they may not even be nearly the best player in the league, but they're superstars because they're playing with the best players in the league. Some of us have had the experience where we're put on the worst team in the league. Yeah. And it shows, or we do our best. But again, I agree with you. It can be intimidating to see others, seemingly accomplishing more, but you've got to play your game. You've got to do your thing, and you've got to work with what you're working with. And if you play your game and you work with what you're working with, you can have the accomplishments that are necessary and relevant to what you're doing, as opposed to trying to mirror what someone else is doing. Your organization, especially if you're working with a small organization, maybe your friends and your colleagues are often big organizations doing very well or doing things that you wish that you could do. But if you're working in a smaller organization or leading a smaller organization, you just won't have that kind of, you may not have that kind of perceived success in that way.
Yeah, and I see that especially in the nonprofit world. You have individuals that's working on a team that's got two people on their team. They're trying just to keep the doors open to provide services for for the immediate community that they serve, and their friends are part of a nonprofit, or their colleagues part of a nonprofit that is covering the entire state. That is constantly being recognized by the governor, and they're on the front page of the newspaper every other week, and it can be intimidating, but that's not your competitor. Your competitor is the person in the mirror, not the person that's next to you. Your competitor is, am I going to get to the top? And I want to jump to number 7 because it seems somewhat contradictory to what we're saying. And number 7 is, don't be intimidated. I'm sorry. Move out of the way. Number 8, I apologize. Number 8, move out of the way of others who are going faster than you. And that's just, those of you who do bike riding. I used to do long distance bike riding. I'm trying to get back up to it. And then I had an accident the other day, fell and busted up my arm real good. So it is what it is. But
are you saying you didn't get out of the way of someone moving faster than you? Is that what happened?
No, the car behind me didn't get out of my way. They were burling down on me, and they didn't have respect for the other. They didn't have respect for bikers on the road. I really try to have respect for bikers now, even more so. But
well, I'm glad you're at least still with us in the land of the living there.
I am too, because had I fallen the other way, the car would have run over top of me. So fortunately, I fell where I did. It busted me up pretty good, but I'm still here. But one of the things that they say in biking is to the left. And when you hear that to the left, that means get over, because I'm going faster than you are, slowpoke, and I'm coming down your left side. And so, and it's the same thing with hiking. It's understood that whoever's moving at a faster pace, it's your responsibility as a slower person to get out of their way so that they can go up. That's the courteous thing to do. And sometimes it's, and that assists them. I want you to understand, by you getting out of their way and not slowing down their pace, you are assisting them at getting to the top quicker than you are. And so one of the things that really helps leaders, and this is, again, a shameless plug, why I really appreciate Unboxed to Lead, is because we want leaders to assist each other in reaching their professional and personal goals, to assist each other in emotionally and becoming more authentic, calmer, less anxious leaders. That is important to us. And when you do that, getting out of the way of others, supporting others as they're reaching, as counterintuitive as this sounds, it actually helps you to become a stronger, more competent leader. As you step out of the way of others, seeing their progress, watching others grow and reach their goals, and knowing that you, in whatever small or large part, were able to assist in that, really does encourage you as you're going along this journey. It can be done. I'm watching these people climb up this mountain. I know this mountain can be scaled. It can be accomplished. And that is so powerful in this journey.
I think that one of the internal values, one of the best things that you can develop, not only as a leader, but as a person, one of the best values that you can develop is what in Buddhism is called sympathetic joy. And that is learning to be happy for the success of others.
Yes.
Almost looking at their success as even being your success, celebrating with them as if it happened to you. Yeah. Knowing how challenging it is to just live, knowing how challenging it is to lead, knowing how challenging it is, like you said, to climb the mountain. When you're seeing someone be successful at that, you can say to yourself, I know how hard that is. I know how difficult this can be. And I can find a sense of joy and appreciation that this person is accomplishing this. And I'm happy for them. And I'm happy to get out of the way so that they can succeed.
Yeah.
it's a very difficult thing to do. We are just generally not trained to be happy for other people being successful. It's all about competing. It's all about, this is why I think sometimes organized sports is a very good thing, to be involved in. You learn some sportsmanship. You learn to shake hands with the team that won at the end. I mean, you still wanted to win, but you kind of learn how to kind of bite down and say, "Hey, man,"
Yeah.
or "Hey, good game." But beyond that, this is a psychic irritant, and it's something that can really hold you back if you are constantly envious or jealous or wanting to see other people fail. It comes back and bites you and eats at you, and it doesn't give you the freedom to succeed yourself. But being able to cheerlead and to be excited about someone else's success frees you in ways that you really don't appreciate until you start to develop that skill to be able to do it.
And I want to jump in with this because when you said that, it made me think about something relative to sports. A great fighter, first of all, celebrate other success. I don't want to move on before I acknowledge that that's a very powerful point. Another thing is focus on what you're doing. As we talk about getting out of the way of others, that also means focus on what you're doing. Great fighters are not so much worried about the other guy missing as they are about them landing their shot. And what I mean by that is too often we celebrate, oh, he missed. Oh, yeah, but he threw 300 shots. He missed 150, or he missed 200 of them, but that means he still landed 100. You were so busy worrying about how many he missed, you didn't throw any. So that means you threw 3 shots and only landed 1, which means you got hit 150 times versus him only being hit once. So rather than being so worried about what others are doing and hoping that they don't accomplish what they're pushing towards, focus on what you are trying to accomplish. Focus on getting your ball into the hoop. Focus on getting to your goals and moving and becoming the best and the most authentic of who you are, rather than being so focused on what someone else should not be, what they are or are not doing. Rather, put that energy into building up yourself. And I know it kind of got a little off track, but I really thought about this, Soren, because you brought up something very powerful, Raphael, about when it comes to celebrating others. And I thought about focusing on self. And so, move out the way. Move out the way so that others can go along.
Yeah.
It is encouraging to see others at the top. And yes, that's one thing when you're journeying, you're going to see there's a group of folk at every part of the journey. And there are other people who are at the top. They're at the top, and I want to celebrate them as they go to the top. I want to move on to number 9. Number 9 says, what I learned, the 9th thing that I learned was start early because the storm comes around noon. When you're climbing 14,000-foot mountains here in Colorado, everyone knows that around noon, usually you're going to get lightning and rainstorms or hailstorms, but you're definitely going to get some lightning. And so you need to be up on the top. You need to be taking your pictures. You need to be taking your victory laps and celebrating and patting yourself on the back. And then you need to start heading down the mountain before noon. So start early. And the significance of this for leaders is that right now, you need to be developing yourself into the leader that you want to be. And I'm specifically speaking to someone who's younger in age or someone who is young, who is new in position. You don't wait until you get to the place that you want to be to begin developing the skills that you need. You need to be developing those skills now. You need to be starting early in life, always seeking to develop and to grow, always starting early. In the selling world, always be closing. ABC, always be closing. And I would say, always be growing. And start as early as possible. Get on that journey. Don't wait until everything is just right. Because, when you start off early, it's pretty cold out there. When you get there at 6 o'clock in the morning to the base of the mountain and you're ready to go, it can be pretty cold out there, and you don't want to go, and your legs are not feeling right. But if you sit there and wait for the sun to come out, for it to get a little warmer, for your body to feel a little better, feel a little warmed up or whatever. And I'm not saying don't stretch and don't get warm, but you get my point. Then what's going to end up happening is by the time you get toward your destination, the thunder and the rain is going to come in. And I think so many people are seeing this. So many people are seeing, man, I should have gone and finished my education. I should have started my business. I should have. And now the storm has come and it's making it impossible for them to reach their destination, rather than saying, you know what, I'm going to start right now. And I really hope that I'm encouraging someone. I know I'm doing a little talking here, Raphael, but man, I hope that I'm encouraging someone with this. Start now. Whatever it is that you want to accomplish in your life and in your leadership, start now. You need someone to help to support you in that. Make sure that you check out UnBoxed to Lead, because that's one of the things that we want to do. But start now. Don't put it off. Don't say, I'm going to do it after. This has to be in the right place. This thing has to be lined up. No. If you don't start now, the storm is going to come. You need to get to the top of the mountain right now. You need to move on that journey. You need to begin right now. I hope that encourages someone.
No.
All right, I'm going to move on to number 10, and this is the one that I think all of us can relate to. Very simple. Enjoy the journey. It is going to be a long, difficult journey to make it to the top for all of the various reasons that we just shared. But I want to tell you to enjoy the journey, and not just the journey of leadership, the journey of life. Enjoy the journey of parenting. I sit and I look at pictures of my kids who are now teenagers, and I look back at those pictures of them when they were 3 years old and they talked non-stop. I remember my daughter and I used to travel a lot. When I was a single father, we would travel all over the place, me driving. And I remember she would just talk. It gets to a place where my brain would just freeze and just tune it out. And then I would realize that she was asking me a question. I'm like, huh? What? What did you ask? She's like, Dad, I was asking, can birds fly backwards? I always see birds going forward. Can they go backwards? And you're like, what? How do we get here? Because the last thing I remember you talking about was rainbows. How do we get here? But man, if I could go back to that age again, I know I got a little caught up in the illustration, but man, if I could go back to that age again, I look at the pictures and I think about those moments. I'm like, man, I would love to. I'd love to go back. I would love to go back to the beginning of my marriage. That part, man, when you're first learning and experiencing each other, and we zoom past those so fast that all we do have left are the other pictures and the fading memories. Man, enjoy the journey, especially with family. That's where my passion is. But enjoy the journey. Enjoy the journey, man, of being the leader of a small organization. Enjoy the journey when things are horrible. Enjoy the journey. Just enjoy the journey. Raphael, you're in Singapore right now, and I remember when. I remember coming to your house in DC before you moved to Singapore, and that whole transition, man. Enjoy the journey. How has that been for you, just with this whole transition and everything?
I mean, well, let me say this: the journey, and I think one of the things that the biggest takeaway that I've taken from the journey is that it's with a group. You know what I mean? It's not just my journey. Part of it is. Yeah. But man, it's like I was listening to you talk about your kids. I've got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. So I still have two very talkative. Man, my 6-year-old is like me and you, right? She's never met a word she didn't like. And she's never met a stranger. And man, I mean, sometimes I agree. I mean, sometimes the talking can just go on, and I'm just like, is this still happening? Like, I feel like I go through these time warps. Like I've gone to the end of the galaxy, and I come back, and I'm like, this is still. I mean, are we still talking here? but the point is that I get to be on a journey with a team, with my family. I get to be on a journey with you. You know what I mean? And what we're doing here. Like this is like we're all in this together. And that makes it so much more exciting. It's not just what I'm going through as an individual, it's what I'm able to see, my daughters grow. I'm able to see my wife and, her grow as a professional, as a wife, as a mother. It's something, man. And I know you can relate to this. It's something growing old with someone. And it's something to say about growing, watching your kids get older and being part of that journey. And there are times when the journey sucks, man. I mean, it feels like it does. You're just like, gosh, man, another day of this. But you realize that, nothing is promised, nothing is guaranteed. We've all seen the whole world collectively, we've experienced challenge of a health scare, right, with the pandemic. And you can't take any of this stuff for granted. You really can't. You have to, you really get into the perspective and you say, you know what, I'm just gonna take in all of this, good and bad, fun, not fun, whatever it is. I'm just gonna enjoy this journey. One of the things about the journey too is, what are the quality of the decisions and the choices that you're making along the way of the journey? Because that's going to impact what you're enjoying. It's just like you said, earlier, start now, make the decision now. That's a part of the journey. And what are the decisions that you're making along the way? If the quality of your choices is poor, it's going to be a challenge. But if you start to develop the skills, grow, be willing to take risks, understand, the mistakes that you make, the swings and the misses, the home runs, all of that stuff, and that is what makes the journey. So I would just say that the group, being with a team, going on a journey, and then, understanding that the quality of your choices are really, really important to that.
Man, and I love that. Sometimes you have to make your own group sometimes as you're going up. When I'm traveling up, I'll see people, they may have on, and I don't know a stranger, so they may have on a t-shirt that just happens to say Washington Wizards, and I'll say, hey, are you from DC? No, but I was there a few months ago, and we'll talk. Oh, I'm from DC, and we'll get to talking and having a good conversation together. May see someone else, man, that's going slow, and I'll encourage them. Come on, we got to get up here before the storm comes, and we'll laugh together and just strike up conversations and whatnot. That's also part of the journey. That's also part of enjoying the journey. Yeah. Is meeting new people, seeing new things, and don't just let it run by. Don't just let those things fly by. Soak it in. We've talked about that in a couple of other ways, but soak it in and just enjoy the ride. Enjoy this thing called life, because that's what leadership is really about. When we talk about leadership, what we're really talking about is life, because that's what you're doing. You're living this beautiful thing called life. And Raphael, that's what I want us to do. That is why I'm so glad that you and I are on this journey together, because we get to help people to not only unbox their leadership, but to unbox this thing called life. I'm going to do a quick recap, and then I'm going to close it on out. Don't rush. It's a long journey. Number 2, don't linger too long or you'll lose momentum. Number 3, bring the right supplies. Number 4, take scheduled breaks to regather yourself. Number 5, it's easier to come down than it is to go up. Number 6, the view is beautiful from the top, but it's hard to breathe. Number 7, don't be intimidated by the pace of others. Number 8, move out of the way of others going faster than you. Number 9, start early because the storm comes around noon. And number 10, enjoy the journey. Just like I've enjoyed this conversation with you, Raphael.
Likewise, my friend. Well, that is our show. And we want to thank you all for listening to the Unboxed to Lead podcast. We really, really hope that you've taken something away that's going to help you in your leadership and also help you create a more healthy and happy workplace. Be sure to visit our website at www.unboxedtolead.com. And we look forward to being with you again soon. For Dr. Robert Davis, I'm RP Soriano, and this has been Unboxed to Lead.
UnBoxed provides a full-service leaders peer support community that helps high-level leaders become more authentic leaders who build healthy workplace cultures and reach their personal life goals. To learn more and discover how we can take your leadership and your life to the next level, please visit our website at unboxedtolead.com. That's unboxed2lead.com. Again, that's unboxed2lead.com.